It will be obvious to those who would compare the few works of Mr. Johnson, where his brief assistance in this narrative begins and ends. Regardless, it should be emphasized that I have approved the following manuscript, and in thought, intent, and theory, I claim it as my own. C. Jaynes, Philadelphia, January 19th, 2009. Volume 1. Chapter 1. Always thought if I didn't get tenure, I would shoot myself, or strap a bomb to my chest and walk into the faculty cafeteria. But when it happened, I just got bourbon drunk and cried a lot, and rolled into a ball on my office floor. A couple days of this, and I couldn't take it, so I ended classes a week early and checked into the Aquaba bed and breakfast in Harlem to be among my own race and party away the pain. But mostly I just found myself back in the same ball some more, still on the floor, just at a more historically resonant address. My buddy, Garth Frierson, he'd been laid off about 6 months before, and was nice enough to drive all the way from Detroit to help a childhood friend. This help mostly consisted of him sitting his bus driver ass on my rented bed, busting on me until I had enough shame to get off my own duff and try to make something of myself again. By then, the term was over. Graduation done. Campus vacant. I didn't want to see anybody. The only things worse than the ones who were happy about my dismissal were the ones that weren't. The sympathy, the condolences. It was all so white. I was the only black male professor on campus. Professor of African American Literature. Professional Negro. Over the years since my original hire, I pushed away from that and insisted on teaching American literature in general, following a path toward my passion, toward Edgar Allan Poe. Specifically, I offered the course, Dancing with the Darkies, Whiteness in the Literary Mind, twice a year, regardless of enrollment. In regard to the number of students who chose to attend the seminar, I must say in my defense that the greatest ideas are often presented to empty chairs. However, a different theory on proper class size was cited in my denial letter from the president and given as a reason to overturn the faculty's approval. Curing America's racial pathology couldn't be done with good intentions or presidential elections. Like all diseases, it had to be analyzed at a microscopic level. What I discovered during my studies in Poe's and other early Americans' texts was the intellectual source of racial whiteness. Here, in these pages, was the very fossil record of how this odd and illogical sickness formed. Here was the twisted mythic underpinnings of modern racial thought that could never before be dismantled because we were standing on them. You don't cure an illness by ignoring it or just fighting the symptoms. A Kleenex has never eradicated a cold. I was doing essential work affecting domestic policy, foreign policy, the entire social fabric of the most powerful nation of the world. Work that related directly to the way we lived our daily lives and perceived reality itself. Who cared if a bunch of overprivileged 19-year-olds with questionable hygiene could be bothered to rise for the 8 a.m. class? Who cared if I chose to not waste even more precious research time attending the toothless diversity committee? Just get your books, dog, and get out of there. Pack up your place, focus on what you can do. You want? You can come back with me to Detroit. It's cheap. I got a big crib. Ain't no jobs, but still. Garth and I drove up the Taconic in the rain. I was still drunk, and the wet road was like lines on a snake's back, and my stomach was going to spill. Even drunk, I knew any escape plan that involved going to Detroit, Michigan